Episode 148, IRONMAN 70.3 World Championship with Nali Hummel. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in there for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Today I'm talking with Nali Hummel, an athlete that I've been coaching for a while now, and we're going to be talking about her race at the Ironman World Championship 70.3 that took place in South Africa in 2018. This race took place on September 1st, and she had a time of 5 hours, 19 minutes, and 24 seconds. The temperature on race day down there was 55 and 60.
Okay, we'll start over.
What's going on up there?
They don't know how to close doors lightly. They slammed it on the way out.
Holy shit.
I know. If this happens again, I might move to an office and just lock it.
Okay, up to you.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. Today I'm talking with Nali Hummel about her recent race at Ironman World Championship 70.3 down in South Africa that took place on September 1st, 2018. She had a time of 5 hours, 19 minutes, and 24 seconds. The temperature on race day was 55 and rose to 69, with the water temperature being around 57-ish. I'm not real sure on the water temperature. This is her first time doing an international race and a race in South Africa. So welcome back to the show, Nali. I look forward to hearing about your race experience down in South Africa.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. So what was it like qualifying for the World Championship? I know we talked a little bit about that when you came on for Chattanooga, and you came on and talked about the road down slot, but you weren't sure if you were going to take it at the time. What was it like with the emotions of taking the slot?
Man, really, really exciting. I always like a challenge, and once I made the decision to just go for it, go to South Africa and race, I was all in it. And so I was really excited to, crunch down and really get focused again on another race, because I thought my season was going to end early with the Chattanooga 70.3 at the end of May. And so, just really exciting to be able to look forward to something else this season.
Nice. Now, going down to South Africa, what was your main goal that you wanted to accomplish down there?
Honestly, being that this was my first national or world championship, I wanted to basically prove to myself that I could go out there and compete with these other high caliber athletes. In all reality, my goal was to finish, but I wanted to feel like I did my absolute best and gave it all I had. So I didn't really go in with the mindset of, I want to get this place or that place, but I had a general idea of a time that I wanted to hit. And I went in with kind of not knowing what the course was going to be like exactly because of wind and hills and an ocean swim, which I've never done before. So I kind of just guesstimated, but my goal was to finish and give everything I had, and I did.
Nice. So how was your training going into this race? We've been working together for a little bit now. We kept your training off at 15 hours and 2 minutes or so. What was the most difficult part for you with the training?
The most difficult was probably increasing my swim, I guess mileage, because that was something I didn't focus on beforehand. I'm unexperienced in that sport. And so with the workouts that were given to me, they were a big challenge in the fact that, okay, you're swimming this and you have this rest and the goal is at this pace. And so I liked it, but that was probably the biggest change from what I had been doing.
Okay. So what workouts are you talking about?
Oh, all of them. The biggest one that I remember kind of being a big milestone in my swim career was the 40 times 100. That to me mentally got to me before I even started it. And so I had to do a lot of pep talk and just kind of working through that fear of, oh my gosh, I have 40 100s. Like I've never done that in my life, and they're going to be fast, and they're going to, I'm going to want more rest, but I'm not going to get it, but I'm going to push through and I'm going to hit all these times. And so, getting through that one really made me feel, I guess, much more confident in my ability to be a swimmer. And so that was probably the hardest one that I can remember.
Okay. And then with your taper, we also did the 20 by 100 at a little bit faster of a speed than that one that we wanted. And you actually nailed 127 or faster 12 or 13 times?
Yeah.
Like
yeah. So I was excited about that one too. But yeah, faster and shorter rest.
Yeah.
Love it.
Now, as far as the bike and the run goes, how are you feeling with that?
Bike felt great. It was different. This is something else. So I had to get used to riding on the trainer. Because of the workouts that were provided, they're very specific, and, there's only so much you can get out on the road. If you're, resting, but then next thing you know, there's a hill, you can't really get the quality you want out of a workout if you're on the road as much as you can on a trainer, because you have more control. And so getting used to trainer rides all on its own was something new for me. So I guess we would call that challenging, especially when I had some long rides on the trainer, because that's so mental. It's kind of like running on a treadmill. I feel like I can't go as far on a treadmill, but the bike, just after those trainer rides and just having a specific purpose in mind for each and every workout, I felt much stronger when I would go out onto the road and cycle with either by myself or with a group. I felt much more strong. And then, I didn't think I was going to feel stronger with running, just because running out of the three sports is probably my strongest suit. But, I had some pretty intense workouts that you gave me, and I felt like I crushed them. And so I did feel like I became more confident in my running abilities as well. So it was really neat to see that transformation from beginning to end in all three.
Okay. Now, over the past 3 months, we ramped up to 15 hours. How do you feel like the injury prevention along the way was?
The way that my workouts were laid out and progressed with, the build and then recovery week and then the build and recovery, I think that is essentially what prevented me from getting injured, because I never felt any of those pains that may come up and may arise in some triathletes. But I guess the slow progression is what kind of kept me healthy.
Okay. So going into this race, were you doing a lot of bricks?
Good old bricks. Yes. Oh, yes. The fun stuff. Yeah. And I would say on average, 2 to maybe 3 a week, and they were short bricks, but they were bricks, so.
Okay. Now, and you still went outside quite a bit to ride, even on Tuesdays. Even on Tuesdays.
Even on Tuesdays. Yep. And, I enjoy group rides a lot, and, there's something about the camaraderie there, and you push each other a little bit more. But yeah, I think you need to have a balance between, the group stuff outside and then, your solo stuff, when you really get inside your head and push yourself by yourself.
Right. Now, with regards to your damn, I can't talk. So with regards to your nutrition plan, what was this like for you?
So my nutrition plan, I've kind of just swinged it a lot, from the time I became a triathlete. But this year, I started focusing on 300 calories, per hour of training. And so between my electrolyte mix and my goos and salt tablets and Cliff Bars and sometimes bananas, that was kind of my goal, 300 calories and just stay hydrated.
Okay. Now, if we take a look at your plan overall, what workouts did you do that gave you the confidence to not only go into this race prepared knowing that you could do it, but do your best?
I mean, so there was this, and you're asking like specific workouts that kind of, so there's this, this workout, we're going to give it the title Mike Tyson. And, it's killer because it's interval style and you're going all out whether it be 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, or 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. And so, or up to 50 seconds on and 10 seconds off. And so you have these intervals, and you're giving it all you got for those seconds. And it's funny how 1 second feels so long during this workout, and short rest. And so to get through that workout alone, to me, just gives you that confidence. It's a confidence booster. But to top it off, then we're going to add a little twist to it, and we're going to add a 10-minute break, and not just any old 10-minute break where you're going at race pace. No. You're going to go as hard as you can, as hard as you possibly can for those 10 minutes. And so that means faster than race pace. And so I remember the first time I did it, I covered like a mile and a half, or maybe slightly over. And then the next time I did it, I covered 1.55. And then, of course, coach decided to give me the goal of, you're going to run 1.65. And immediately in my head, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I got this. And then I tried and I failed, and I tried and I failed, and I tried and I failed. And I got up to 1.6. And then the very last opportunity I had to do this workout with the 10-minute break on the end was either a week or a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before the race. And I managed to not only hit my goal, but exceed it. And I ran 1.71 miles in those 10 minutes. And that gave me a 5:53 mile average pace, when my goal was 6:03 for the 10-minute. And so that was one of the biggest, I want to say the biggest workouts that gave me that satisfaction of, Nali, this wasn't possible a few months ago. You just crushed it. You can do anything. So that was definitely one of the more memorable workouts.
Nice. Now, you didn't really miss that much training at all, honestly, did you?
No. Did I miss one, maybe?
I don't think you did.
I don't even know if I missed one.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what happened. The one I'm thinking of, I had a race that day. I went and did River Cities. I had a race, and I had a little extra workout on the side I was going to do, but due to extreme fatigue, you gave me the thumbs up to just take off.
Right. Now, if we take a look at your training overall, we maxed out at 15 hours a week, and you still have a job at the gym. You're still working as well, and you also have Forrest, your husband, that you need to spend time with. How was managing life, work, and time with your husband?
Yeah, so that's always a challenge, right? With anything, with any hobby. And then not just any hobby, but something you want to really excel at and succeed in with a big focus, which is the race. You kind of just make it work. You have to be very specific and plan time together. And so not only would we do that, but, even with my family, we would have okay, well, we're going to come over this weekend, or with his family, hey, we're coming to see y'all on Sunday, and we're going to go to church and do brunch and yada, yada, yada. So it's just, you have to develop an understanding and hope you get their blessing on, hey, I want to do this with you. I'm going to support you. And then you work together on it. And you just kind of make the time. You have to prioritize. So the things that are important in your life, you'll make time for.
Right. Now, did you make any sacrifices going into this race?
Always. I mean, there's always, and I don't know if I use the word sacrifice still, just because it sounds like a horrible thing. I hate doing this because I have to do that, but it's not that. It's just the fact that I've chosen to train instead of X, Y, and Z. And so when you think of sacrifices, immediately you think of sleep, or time to hang out with friends, or, celebratory parties, or going out on the weekend, or traveling. Cause, Forrest and I were really big travelers. And so we like to just go away for a weekend and just have a good time. And so, things like that, you definitely cut back on, or don't do at all. But again, not necessarily a sacrifice. It's just you're choosing to put triathlon as the priority over all those other things you said no to.
Right.
And you feel good about it, because it's my choice. I have the power to control what I do, and I'm choosing to go into this race, and I want to feel like I did everything I could to prepare for it. And so I'm going to do this. I'm going to train today.
Good. Now, in regards to your taper, what did this look like for you?
Yeah. So, lower mileage, the intensity was still high. You gotta remind yourself, okay, this is what you're going to do soon. Like this is the intensity we're going to go, but we're going to add a ton of rest in between. So the taper was good. I had some extra days off, which are always nice. I used to be weird about days off, and now I really, I definitely see the necessity for them. And, I can tell that rest does my body good, and complete rest, not just active recovery, which, is in the mix, but, complete rest is really good too. And some of that was forced just because I was on a plane for so long. It's like, oh, you can't do anything when you're on a plane. You can get up and do a couple squats and a couple calf raises, but that's about it. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the plane. When did you start traveling down to the race?
So we left Tuesday, and it was the biggest flight was 16 hours. That was the longest one. We had like 3 or 4, or 3 other small ones, but the longest one was 16 hours. We left Tuesday, got to South Africa, specifically Johannesburg, Wednesday. Well, long story short, our flight was delayed. There were some mechanical issues before we took off. And so we were on the plane waiting to take off for over an hour, caused us to miss our next flight, which happened to be the last flight to Port Elizabeth, which is where the race was going to take place. And so I was stuck in Johannesburg for the night without a plan, because literally every airline was booked until Saturday. And so, I did end up getting a flight to Port Elizabeth the next day, but I had to get to the airport very, 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 very early to be put on the list for standby. And, it worked out.
Wow.
And so I didn't actually get there until Thursday because of that. I was supposed to get there Wednesday, and I had all these plans. I had a whole list of things I was going to do Thursday, but everything kind of got backtracked after that flight was missed. But it all worked out.
Right. So what was the contingency plan if they weren't able to get you onto the standby list?
I was never, it's crazy. I was never really worried. I had this sense of calm inside me. I knew I was going to get there. I just wasn't really sure how or when, but I knew I was going to make it. The backup plan in my mind was rent a car and drive the 12 hours. Obviously that's not ideal, but I knew it could be done, and worst case scenario, we'll just rent a car and do it. We came all this way for that. So, but yeah, so it all worked out. It was great. It was neat the way it worked out. We got on an early flight, actually, at 6:10 in the morning. And so, yeah, all went fine.
Wow. So you lived down in Louisiana. What were your stops from Louisiana to Port Elizabeth?
So Louisiana to, Ruston, actually, so small town in Louisiana. So Ruston and Monroe, we flew from Monroe to Atlanta, and then Atlanta to Johannesburg, Johannesburg to Port Elizabeth.
Okay, and on the way home, it wasn't the same.
Not the same. And that was a little tricky because we had to buy all sorts of internal flights, and it's just kind of a mess trying to time it and make sure that we're going through all these time zones. So we're trying to make sure that we're not buying a ticket that's not going to correlate with the other one. But on the way back, after the race, we actually flew to Cape Town, had a little mini vacation there. Beautiful, beautiful area. And then from Cape Town, we stayed there 5 or 6 days, and then we flew to Johannesburg, Johannesburg to Atlanta, Atlanta to Monroe, and then back to Ruston. So, yeah.
Nice.
Few stops.
Now, whenever you got down to Port Elizabeth and you finally got off the plane and got your baggage there, what was your first impression of South Africa?
So it was a little chilly that day, a little windy. There were people everywhere. Athletes were just coming in left and right. And so you're just flooded or you're flooding the airport. All these triathletes carrying their bikes, and it was just really neat. And then you walk out, and there are, I'm going to call them musicians. They're standing there singing, playing the drums, and it was just really neat because like now you're diving into a different culture, and you first, you immediately step out, and you're like, oh, this is so great. They're playing their African music, playing these drums, like this is cool. And then you decide to take an Uber, so you stuff your bags in this mini Uber because apparently the XL doesn't exist. We managed to fit my bike, the suitcases, the carry-ons, my book bags, because I had a couple of them, somehow fit them in this tiny car. And I'm in the back, no seatbelt on because I'm flooded with my luggage on me. I know, so safe. But where you immediately take off, and then you're reminded, oh yeah, they drive on the left-hand side. So you're kind of turned around a little bit. And as they're driving, you're like, oh no, we're going to hit them. Oh no, we're not. We're fine. We're on the left side. That's normal. And so it's just neat just to be in a different culture, just experiencing new things the way they do it. And everybody was so friendly. They called this race the fiercest race in the friendliest city, and they're not lying. I've been to a lot of places, and these people, very, very friendly. Like, there's nice, and then there's let me go beyond nice and just go out of my way to make sure that you're okay. It's hard to explain, but they were all just lovely, lovely people.
Wow. Now, as far as the food quality down there, what was this like?
Oh yeah, no, everything. I mean, it depends on what you want. They had everything, right? So they had their cafes, they had their Italian places, they had, I had my fair share of African food too, but not until after the race. I had to stick with what I knew first. But, yeah, the pizza, they had everything nearby, and, yeah, so it was just kind of depends on what you want to eat. They have it there.
Nice. Now, did y'all get an Airbnb or a hotel? What did this look like?
Oh man. Okay. So we stayed in the cutest little bed and breakfast, which we found last minute because when we were looking at hotels near the race site, everything was booked. So I qualified late. So, it was kind of like I had last pick. And so I was very lucky and I found this bed and breakfast, and it was family owned, in this cute neighborhood, and there were probably only about 6 rooms, and, very, very sweet, generous people, breakfast included. It was just big enough. It was tiny, but just big enough, just what I needed. The bed was comfortable. But the only downside was that it was probably almost 10 to 15 minutes away from the race site. So it's kind of like, well, I can't just ride my bike or run down there. I have to call an Uber. I have to wait for the Uber. I have to pack my stuff in the Uber. Then the Uber has to drive us out, drive us there. We unload. And so it was kind of like a little process for the times that I had to get down there, whether it be race check-in or I wanted to, do something over there. Yeah.
Now, did you have to get a data plan for your cell phone? What does this look like?
Yeah. So, I have AT&T, and they have it to where if you just let them know, you can, what I did was I bought a gigabyte for, I think it was like $50 or something like that. And, they had other plans too. So with just a little advance notice, you have free data basically up to a certain point. And then if you go over, you pay a little bit more. So not too bad. It was a pretty good deal.
Okay. So
yeah,
you get it all checked into the bread and breakfast. Gosh, I can't talk. The bed and breakfast. I want to say bread. Oh my gosh.
I know, me too, every time.
So you get all checked in for your lodging, and then you head down to the expo for the first time. What was your impression of the expo here?
Oh, it was so neat. So first off, it was right by the coast. So really pretty because you see the ocean and you see all these palm trees, and then you see all these people walking along along the sidewalk. And it's like, you just can't wait to get out. It's like, are we there yet? Just come on. And so we get out, and then we see these huge banners, and there's the IRONMAN logo everywhere. And it's just, everything's decorated Ironman style. and it was near what they called the Boardwalk Casino. So it's this huge area with shopping, and I never went into the casino, but it was like in a distance, it was like this huge building. And I felt like this plaza area just kind of went on forever. There was kind of like an enclosed pond. It was just really pretty area. And anyways, and then you have your IRONMAN store, and then all these other places, and your bike shop, and places to eat. And so it was really cool. So I was just kind of taking pictures left and right, still trying to be in the moment, but I'm like, I have to capture all of this. And, yeah, it was just really exciting just to step out and like be like there. You're there, and you see, you can see where, okay, this is where we're going to be starting. Okay, I think that might be T1, or maybe it's T2. I'm not sure, because there's 2 of them now. But it was just really neat to step out into the air and see all of that.
Wow. So how was the check-in process? They did something a little bit different here than normal. What was this like?
No, it was actually really just smooth and easy. Okay, I will say this. There was a lot more, I don't know what to call it, like identification checks. So it's like you get in, they take your picture, and then that picture's downloaded at another computer, which you make your way to. They take your fingerprint. They ask for your identification, whether it be a passport or a driver's license, and then they scan that. They have your fingerprint, they have your picture, they have your identification card, and they're scanning it into the system and making sure it all matches. And it pops up on their computer screen, and then they check it, and then they look at you, and then they check it again. And so there was a lot more of that, which was really neat, and I'm glad they did that. So I felt like that was kind of like an extra measure of identification, so nobody can, come in and tell you that you're somebody else or whatever. But and then you pick up your bag, which we got a really cool bag. I really like bags, and this is probably the coolest one I've ever had. Anyways, so pick up your bag, and then inside the bag you have everything you need except for your timing chip, which you go somewhere else and get it, which was also smooth, easy peasy. But yeah, that's kind of quick and easy. Just a couple extra steps to make sure you're you.
Nice. So as far as the village itself, there are vendors from South Africa and all around the world. Did you go through all these vendors and see what they had to offer?
No, I did walk through it. And I will say this was the most organized vendor setup, because there was one walkway, and it guided you through the whole thing. It was kind of like an S shape, or a snake-like shape. You just kept walking, you take a left, and you turn right, and then you take a left. And so it was guided, which in others that I've been in, it's just, there are too many. You don't know where to walk. You don't even know where you've been because it's so big. You're like, oh, I think I was here. No, I wasn't. Anyway, so this was, I think, much more clean and just set up nicely. But I did walk through. I didn't stop. Just because I didn't need to. But I did glance. I glanced, and there was a lot of stuff I could have stopped and just taken my time and tested some stuff out, whether it be shoes or, I don't know, swim stuff, or they had a lot of those compression pants that Normatec.
Sure.
Is it Normatec? Yeah. So they were there, yeah. Zone 3 was there. I should have stopped by, say hi, but they had people. But, yeah.
Nice. Now, as far as the day before the race, were you trying to get in a certain meal?
Yes. I got in some pasta. Normally, it's like I do beans and rice, but they had pasta specials left and right at all these places we were kind of checking out. And so I just did a simple chicken pasta with a tomato paste, light dressing, and some bread, and called it a day, and some water, of course, on the side. But yeah, so pasta, and it works. I used to do pasta all the time. It's just kind of changed recently. But
okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, after you check your bike in, how is your anxiety level going into this race?
Man, I felt like I was really calm this race. I don't know. I was just, maybe it was just, I was excited to be there, just kind of more happy than nervous kind of thing. But, at that point I had already checked in my bike and checked in my bag. So I'd visited T1 and T2. still a little, the only thing I will say I was kind of anxious about is the whole idea of I'm turning in my run bag and I'm never going to see it again until I race. So I had to like quadruple check it. Like I looked inside, I'm like, shoes, check. Okay. Running hat, check. Okay. Sunglasses, check. Belt, bib belt, check. All right. Extra goo, check. And so I had to do that several times. I don't know why, but it bothered me that I wasn't going to see it again, cause normally race day, I have my whole setup and I can set up everything from the bike to the run. And so that was just different and it worked. It was really, really smooth, during race day. But, that was probably the only thing that gave me a little bit of anxiety.
Wow. Now, did you try to get in bed at a certain time the night before the race? Hey, everybody, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and I just want to let you know that I've enjoyed having so many people on this show, and I couldn't really do it without your support. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and being a part of what I'm doing. If you would, take a few moments to leave me a review over on iTunes. It would help me out tremendously, and enjoy the show. Did you try to get in bed at a certain time the night before the race?
Yes. And I laughed because it didn't happen. My goal, so we finished check-in early-ish, it was like 5, and I wanted to eat an early dinner and then go to bed quickly because I'd kind of been on my feet a lot more than I wanted to be the days leading up to it, just because I'm in South Africa, there's so much to do and see, and we walked a lot. And anyways, so we had an unfortunate event that occurred the night before the race at dinner. And my husband, Forrest, placed his wallet on the side of the table, and some lady snatched it, and we have it on camera, on video. So we went back and looked because it was odd because he took his wallet out for a second. We were paying, and the next thing you know, wallet's gone. So we're looking underneath the table. He's checking his pockets. He checks his pockets again. We look under the table again, and it's nowhere to be found. So the waitress was like, well, let me check the camera. Sure enough, there was this lady with pink hair and a black skirt that just swiped it real, real quick right under our noses. And, yeah, that delayed my sleep, because we got security involved and they started roaming the streets. Forrest was roaming the streets. The police got involved. And so next thing you know, still no wallet. And now it's getting really late. And as much as I want to find the wallet, I'm also thinking I really need to get to bed. And so we ended up leaving, and I got in bed pretty late. I think I finally laid down after 10 o'clock. And at that point in time, Forrest surprised me with a package of letters that people had written to me.
Really?
And yes, I had, I don't know, at least 10, maybe 12 letters from family and friends. And so it was really special. And I was like, I can't go to bed now. I have to read this. And of course, it was the best read before bed because it's just a ton of encouragement. You just feel the love and support from people that aren't there, that want to be there, and that were a big part of your success and your journey to get there. And so, the waterworks start happening, and you just feel this overwhelming sensation of love and just gratitude. And it's just very humbling. And then I love surprises. And so that was really sweet of him to do that. And so it was like, we had kind of just gotten through a bad evening, a great evening that kind of turned sour. And then it's like, oh, this is the best. And so, I probably closed my eyes kind of maybe like 10:45-ish. I don't know. It was late, but I had really good sleep. I was very surprised. I slept hard until, I think my alarm was going to go off around 5, and I woke up a little bit early. I guess I was just excited. And so I woke up early and just laid in bed and reflected, prayed a little bit. I do a lot of visualization. And so I was visualizing the day, and, then I decided to get up, and my alarm still wasn't ready to go off. So I just turned it off and started getting ready.
Wow. What time did you end up actually getting out of bed?
I think it was a little bit after 5, and I say like 5:05, something like that.
Wow.
So I think my alarm, if I remember correctly, I think my alarm was going to go off around maybe 5:15 because I wanted to get out by 6 or a little bit before. So,
Okay.
and it worked. I mean, we got out in time, and still plenty of time to spare because my wave was going so late. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. So what were you doing for breakfast? And being that this is, you don't have an actual car, you had to rely on Uber. What was all this process like before you actually left?
Yeah. So it's really neat how things work out because the day before, or maybe it was 2 days before, I was thinking, well, is Uber even going to be accessible at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning? You know, like how reliable will they be? And especially because we weren't near, you know, the city, we were kind of in the suburbs and neighborhoods. So this guy who happened to be staying at the bed and breakfast, his name was Juan, and Juan is from Mexico. He knew or had heard I was racing, and he had offered to give me a ride that morning. And I'm thinking, you're racing, because he was racing the next day, and I'm thinking, you're racing the next day. Shouldn't you like sleep in a little bit? Like you're going to wake up early. Well, it worked out because he wanted to test out the drive to see how early he was going to have to go to find parking and how close he was going to be able to get, you know, to find parking. And so he used this as a way to kind of gauge how early he'd have to get there. And at the same time, giving me a ride, which was clutch. And so he got me super close. So that was amazing that I had him there. And then as far as breakfast went, it's always really hard to eat in the morning before a race, because I'm just kind of excited. So I had, banana, I had a Cliff Bar. Normally I do toast, but I didn't do toast that day. I did a Cliff Bar instead. And then, yeah, just started sipping on some water kind of casually that whole morning.
Nice. Now, you get a transition. You didn't bring your own pump, did you?
Nope, sure
you
didn't.
Just relied on other people.
Yeah, so I had read that Ironman was providing pumps that morning. They were going to have several kind of throughout the T1 area, and volunteers to actually pump for you. And because I knew that was going to be available, I decided, great, I don't need to bring my pump. That's one less thing I have to worry about. But I got mixed up with T1 and T2, and I started heading to T2. Juan had gotten us so close to T1, and I start walking to T2, and they're not close to each other by any means. Like, if I could guess, they're at least half a mile apart, at least, and maybe a good whole mile, actually. Anyways, I'm walking, I'm with Forrest, and so we're walking together, heading to T2, and Forrest, he reminds me that we're going to T2, and I'm like, take a step back, and I'm thinking, yeah, you're right. We're going the wrong way. And so we were definitely almost there too. So we turn around and start walking back to T1. And, luckily we had a ton of time to spare. Transition wasn't about to close. I still probably had at least 30 minutes and then at least an hour after that before I started. And so, I wasn't too nervous, wasn't too anxious after I realized I was going the wrong way. But, yeah, pumped my tires up, 78 in front, 80 in the back, rechecked my, my cycling bag, added a couple extra goos, put water bottles in my cages, added CO2 cartridges, cause I had forgotten to buy those until the night before, and I had already checked in my bag. So that was one thing I had to add to my little safety bag on the back. But, yeah, easy peasy.
Now, as far as your mindset going into this race after you leave transition, what was this like for you?
Yeah, so I've never had to wait this long before a start. So that was different all on its own because it gave me more time. I don't know if this is good or bad, but more time to think about everything that was about to happen. Also, it was really, really cold that morning. I wish I had pants on. Luckily, I did have a jacket. So I went ahead and put my wetsuit on because I was so cold. And that warmed me up pretty good. Anyways, I was very relaxed. I enjoyed just the whole walk from transition to the starting line, which was a good ways, to get out of that transition area. And then you get to, you get into like the sand area, and then you still have a good 400 meters to go to walk to the start. And so you're just looking at the sun coming up. you're enjoying that sunrise as you walk out and you see the whole, I guess, sand area just full of all these people between spectators and athletes. And it just kind of gives you a sense of awe. It's like, wow, this is beautiful. This is amazing. I can't believe I'm here. And so again, it's going back to like just kind of a grateful heart. I'm not really nervous. I'm just really excited to be there. Yeah, and then I started my dynamic warm-up and did some stretches in my wetsuit, so I was a little stiff, but I still got it done. And, yeah, just kind of waited that whole hour. Luckily, I wasn't by myself, so I had some company, and it was just neat being there.
So after your dynamic warm-up, you start getting seated into your corral and all this fun stuff. We wanted to approach this race in more of a training day approach versus a race, treated like a supported race or a supported training day. Do you feel like this was a good approach for you?
I do. In the past, when faced with high competition, sometimes that, like, mentally, it can do one of two things. It can either A, push you to do better, or B, get into your head and you feel like you're really slow because all these people are passing you or they're with you. And so for me, it took out the opportunity for that second thing to happen. And it just be more of, okay, I'm going to train hard today. I know I've been training hard up to now. And so just going in there with that mentality, I think gave me the ability to just eliminate things, external factors getting into my head.
Right. Now, as far as the actual race itself, the swim, bike, and run, what were the goals for each one?
Yeah. Okay. So the swim, in regards to time, and this was kind of like lightly kind of not really knowing what the swim was going to be like, but I wanted to be around 35 minutes. I didn't want to exceed 35 minutes. But I just wanted to go out there, do my best, have a good swim. And I ended up doing that. I think, I looked at it earlier. I think it was around 32 minutes, maybe around there. So I did decent for my swim, better than I thought. It was tough though, going against waves and trying to even just get out. And sighting was difficult because it seemed like every time I lifted my head up, there was a wave right in front of me and I couldn't see. And so kind of timing your sighting along with, feeling like you're constantly being pushed over by these waves was really interesting. But yeah, in regards to like my goal, just get out there, do my best, go strong, go hard. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, I want to do better than 35 minutes. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, before you actually got off into the swim, did you meet up with Kitty?
Oh, no, I didn't find her, but I found her after the race. So she told me what happened in her swim and her little incident with her knee kind of hitting the wave. But yeah, no, I found her afterwards, though.
Okay.
She's sweet.
Now, you get to the swim, the gun goes off for the age groupers. Walk me through the swim course for you.
Okay. So we're in our corral, and although we're in a group of, within our age group, we're still only going 10 at a time. I personally would have liked a mass start because that would have helped me kind of figure out who's in front of me, who's behind me. Am I beating this person? Is she beating me? So kind of going 10 at a time, it kind of eliminates a little bit of that competition factor. But, anyway, so we're there, and, you hear these beeps, and it's just beep, 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 beep. And then the next person goes, and it's again. And so as I get closer and closer, the announcers are just kind of going wild and having fun and just kind of getting us excited, and just, we're throwing our hands in the air, and just, they're playing music in the background, just really fun, upbeat music. So you're just kind of getting ready. You're just like getting ready to go. And then you hear that beep and then you take off. And I took off hard because it's kind of a downward slope. So I'm sprinting to the ocean, high knees, high knees, high knees when I get into the water, just trying to get as far into the water as I can before I have to start swimming. And so I'm doing all these high knees, and here comes a wave. And so I dive, but I'm still not deep enough and my feet are still on the ground. So I'm struggling with these high knees, high knees, high knees, and I dive again. And then finally I'm off, and it is so cold. And so my body has to like quickly adapt, and I'm trying to get my breathing under control. And so I'm doing these long, deep, controlled breathing techniques to just kind of be in a sense of calm. And my hands and feet kind of go numb a bit because it's cold and I'm just not used to that either. And so I'm going, and there's people all around me, just to the front, to the back, to the left, to the right. And I'm trying to draft. And, you know, I'll find somebody, and then I realize, okay, they're leaving me. And so I stay behind. And then I find somebody, and then I realize I'm leaving them. And so, okay, I'm going to go. And so, I never found a person to just kind of draft off of that we were kind of stroke by stroke, just equally as fast. And so, the majority of the time I was passing people just because I was so far back. I think I was the next to last wave to start. And so in my mind, that's more opportunity to pass people, which I was. I felt like I was passing more people than were passing me, which is a fantastic feeling. But I found myself alone at one point. So I thought maybe I'm just so fast. I've just zoomed off and left everybody behind. Nope. Nali, you're off course. So, so I was like, oh, that explains it. So I get back on course, and let's just say that happens one more time. And so I do need to figure out a better way to sight, because that's something I struggle with, and who knows how much time that added to this swim. But it was really neat. At one point I saw a jellyfish, and I had to do like a double check. So I see something down below, and it looks like a jellyfish, but I'm like, maybe it's just a floating plastic bag. So I look again, I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that's a jellyfish. And I look over time, I'm like, yeah, that's a jellyfish. That is so cool. It was far enough away to where it didn't bother me. Had it been closer, I would have freaked out, but it was far. So anyway, so that was really neat, because you like really feel the whole experience of being in the ocean and just in nature, and it's freezing, and all these people are going through the same thing you are, and you just want to, get back to land as fast as possible. But at the same time, you're enjoying the blue ocean because it was so blue. It was so pretty. But yeah.
How far down could you see?
I have no idea. I mean, you couldn't see the very bottom, but I felt like I could see a good ways. Just because the sun was out too, and the water just seemed clear, but I have no idea how deep it would be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I talked with Rebecca and Danielle already about this race, and they both had mentioned that about 400 meters out from the actual start line, it actually got warmer. Did you experience this?
Yes, I did experience that, and that's when my feeling came back to my hands and feet. So that was different, because I thought if anything it would have gotten colder the further you went out, but it was opposite. So don't know how that works, but it did. It got warmer. So that was, to me, pleasant. I thought it was perfect once it got to that warmer temperature.
Wow. Now, you get done with the swim. Did you get beat up in the swim at all?
I did not. I got close to people, but never got smacked in the head, which this is probably the first time I can tell you that I never, didn't get kicked, didn't get punched, didn't get elbowed. So that was neat. But I will say, getting out of the swim, I felt the most beat up than I've ever felt. I was dizzy. I felt like my head was spinning. I felt like as soon as I got out of the run, I was like running sideways. I felt like I couldn't even run straight. My equilibrium was completely off, and I don't know if that was just due to the constant wave motion that I wasn't used to, or if it was the cold. I have no idea, but it was the weirdest feeling, and I didn't even regain that sense of ground until at least 15 to 20 minutes into the bike. It was weird.
Wow.
It came back there, yeah.
Now, there were wetsuit strippers here. Did you take advantage of them?
I sure did. Man, they stripped that thing off so fast. I was debating whether to use them or not, and they were ready for me. There was nobody around, so I was like, deal. They said, sit down. I'm not kidding, like one swipe off. So I used them.
Wow. Now, were the wetsuit strippers on the sand?
They were not. So you ran off the sand, and then they were probably a good, I don't know, couple 100 meters in. So I had already so here's the thing. I had already taken the top portion off. So my arms were out, and I was running with the leg piece of the wetsuit on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you get to T1. How does T1 go for you?
Smooth. I found my bag, piece of cake, sat down, put all my shoes on, my goose, helmet on, and took off. My bike was in a place that seemed easy. I felt like it was close to the exit. And yeah, so outside of the dizziness, everything was smooth. Like, found everything, went, boom.
Nice.
Took off, yeah.
So the first few miles of the bike ride, how are you feeling? This is the first few miles of the bike ride. I know you take a right out of transition, and then you go up a little bit, then you take a left, and then this is a long, gradual hill, right?
Yeah, I felt like the hill just went on forever. And maybe it felt like forever just because we had a headwind getting out, like just immediately into the wind, into the hill. I'm dizzy. And so all I can think is, oh my gosh, this is not going well. This start did not start well. So I'm looking down at my speed. I'm thinking, oh, I'm not going to PR like this. And it was a struggle just trying to get my momentum, just fighting the wind, fighting the hill, and fighting the dizziness. But again, the benefit of starting in next to last wave, I have all these opportunities to pass people, but I will say it was slightly congested at first. So it was hard to pass people because of the congestion. But I still managed to do that. It's just took a little extra time to go around because other people are passing people as I'm passing them. So you have this line of passers. And so it's forcing you to go way out wide. But yeah, so it was a tough start.
Right. And the quality of the road here, from what I gather, is not the best.
Yeah, it wasn't, it's not the worst, but I will say it wasn't the best either.
So you've ridden on worse roads than this? I
have. I ride on a lot of back roads here in Louisiana. And so I'm used to like the rough roads and to where you're cycling is like, and you're feeling all the bumps on the road and you're just praying, and you're just praying you don't get a flat. So same thing, whole lot of prayers went up. I'm like, please no flat, please no flat. But, yeah, so the roads were a little bumpy, but like I said, I've seen worse.
Okay. Now, as far as the aid stations go, how are they?
They were good. We had 3. Can't remember exactly where they were spread out, but let's just say about every 12 to 15 miles. And you had they give you a choice of water or their electrolyte mix. And the first time I took a water bottle and they fit nicely in the cage. So they planned that out. It was really neat because that's one of the things they had talked about on the briefing, the athlete briefing. They had mentioned that the waters were going to fit in our cages, not to worry about that. And so I had planned on dumping my water bottles. So I always, for races, I bring crappy water bottles that I don't mind giving away. And I replace them with what they give me. And so first station, I took their water. Second one, I took their electrolyte mix. Did not take anything on the third one because I still had a little bit to go. But, yeah, it was great. They had volunteers everywhere. It was amazing the amount of volunteers that they had. The most I've ever seen at a race.
Wow. Now, as far as the bike course goes, what was your strategy to tackle this from a data point of view?
Yeah, so I wasn't I wasn't supposed to be worried about my miles. I mean, my speed, my mile per hour. It was more of just like cadence and like keeping a higher cadence, that 85 minute mark. I mean, 85. Sorry, I got distracted. Let me start over. It was mostly about like keeping that 85 RPMs per minute. But I couldn't help but continue to look at my speed because it just wasn't there and it kept bugging me. But, the goal was just to go hard, just lay it out. It's a hard training day. Just go. So that's what I did.
Okay. Now, as far as the bike course goes, paint the picture of what the course looks like.
Okay, so my favorite piece, which was a long portion of it, was on the coast. And so you're kind of higher up and you look out and you see these big waves because it's windy. You see these waves crashing against the rocks and the water is blue. The sky is pretty and you just see all of these rocks and it's just a majestic feel. Just being in a foreign area and it's just so pretty. And then you look to the right and you have these fields. At one point we came across these sand dunes, which was really neat because I'd never seen those before. And, so that to me was really cool. I don't know if it was as cool to other people as it was to me, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's a big sand dune. I've never seen one before. And so it was really hard to like take it in, but at the same time be safe and keep your eyes on the road. But your eyes want to wander out because it's so pretty. And then you have these birds flying overhead and you hear them too. And I have no idea what kind of animal it was. It looked like a fat squirrel, run across and I'm just like, oh, that is so cute. It's, I was just in heaven, just being there in such a beautiful area.
Wow. Now, did you have any cramping or anything like this on the bike ride?
So something a little bit unusual happened and I started, it's not a cramp, but my glutes kind of towards like higher hamstring area got really tight kind of early on. And normally that's not a problem. I never get tight there. It was strange. I don't know if I was, pedaling differently because of the wind and I don't normally face wind when I'm outside cycling. I don't know if it was extra hills, the way I was riding up the hills. I don't know what it was, but, that kind of played a little bit of, it was a factor into my ability to kind of keep going because I was hurting. And then not unusual, my lower back kind of tightened up a little bit, but for me, that's normal, unfortunately. But yeah, so no unusual cramping, no Charlie horse or anything like that. But yeah, glutes and higher hamstring.
Now, on the bike course, did you see a lot of flats or mechanical issues?
Oh, the only one I saw was probably about 5 miles out, and my heart went out to her. It looked like she was fixing it. I hope she was. But yeah, that's the only person that I saw on the side of the road with a mechanical.
Wow. Now, if you think of the bike course overall, did you have an idea of how you're going to tackle any mental bad spots of if you get down on yourself or have any negative thoughts come into your mind?
Not really. Fortunately, that during the bike, that never really happened. And had doubts come across my mind to begin with, I probably just would have reverted back to gratitude and just kind of being there in general and just kind of fighting through it and just reflecting on how far I've come just to get there and what that means. But yeah, luckily those doubts didn't creep in. The doubts that crept in? I hope that's a word. Creeped in or just the mile per hour and me not being able to PR there, but not a big deal. I finished,
because
that's what I was there for.
Second 70.3?
Yeah, well, third. Yeah. Yep.
And you're on a road bike.
And I rode a road bike. I sure did.
Wow. Now, as far as the bike goes, how well do you feel like you were prepared for this bike course?
I feel like I was prepared as much as I could have been. The only other way to be more prepared is to travel to South Africa and ride the course, or travel to a similar environment along the coast and bike every day there, to be able to feel that wind, to feel the hills. But that's just something I couldn't prepare for here. So aside from that, I mean, being able to push for that length of time, we were able to replicate that in training days. The intensity, you replicate that, So I felt like I was as prepared as I could have been for this race.
Okay. Now, the last mile of the bike ride, are you doing anything to start preparing to start running?
Yeah. Well, a few miles out, actually, I started kind of, I'm going to call it stretching out a little bit, kind of doing some slight movements to kind of open up my hips and kind of stretch out my back. And then I increased my cadence a little bit, easier gear, higher cadence, just to kind of get loose and get ready to run.
Okay. So you get to T2. They actually have volunteers to take your bike from you, so we can go ahead and get to your bag pretty quick here. How was T2 for you?
Yeah, the bike catchers were nice. That was a nice touch. I'd never had those, never experienced those, but it was neat. You just dismount, you keep running, they grab your bike, and you just never stop running. So it was nice and smooth. Found my bag quickly. They have chairs lined out for the athletes to sit down. It just makes things a lot easier. So you sit down, you put your shoes on, and you go. And I felt like that was just a really quick transition. And they even have people. Oh, this is the other cool thing. So because of the amount of volunteers that they had, here I am throwing all my stuff out in my bag on the ground and taking off things from my body to be put in the bag. And I have this volunteer running up to me, throwing those things into my bag for me. So it's like, wow, like not only am I about to hand you my bag, but you're actually helping me throw all my stuff into my bag for me. So that was really cool and very helpful. So that probably saved a few seconds there. And then you take off, and I had everything I needed, my hat, my belt, my sunglasses, my goo. Yeah. And you just take off, and you're really excited because now it's like, surely nothing can go wrong now. Like, you're going to finish. You made it to the run. You're going to finish even if you have to walk, even if you have to crawl to that line. And so that was an exciting moment because at that point I realized I'm 100%, like, no matter what, I'm about to finish this thing.
Wow. And now for the run, what was your strategy for the run?
I wanted to keep as close to 7:30 as possible. I went out really hard. I went out too hard. I think I got too excited because of what I was saying about okay, you're really going to finish it now. It's a big moment. And so I went out a little too hard. And I think that is what kind of caused me to slow down towards the end. But my strategy was just to go out there, have fun, do your best, and just get it done. And I ended up dropping my goo and my salt tablets. Not a big deal, but not cool either. So I dropped that, but still had the best time. People cheering, athletes surrounding you, you're passing people passing you, but you're passing more people. And so it was just a really cool experience. And it was a double loop. So that meant I was going to be able to see Forrest multiple times. And because it was really neat. He had positioned himself very well to where I had seen him coming from swim to bike. Then I saw him. He was right outside of T1 before I got on the bike. So he literally sprinted from me coming out of the water to me getting on my bike. So I was able to see him twice there, and then coming in again twice. And so it was just having the double loop for the run. I was going to get to see him twice. And so that was cool. And then it also gives you a better idea of, okay, this is how much I have left because it's a double loop. You're halfway done or a fourth of the way done. And so, but strategy, just get out there, have fun.
Nice. Now, your first mile was 6:43.
Yeah, a little faster.
Yeah, just a touch.
Just a little.
And then you have 712, 712, 723, then 750 at mile 5. What happened here at mile 5?
It was 5. I thought it was mile 3. So I guess it was mile 5. In my mind, it was mile 3. That's when I guess you can say I kind of hit a wall. My legs weren't cooperating. One thing that I wish I would have done differently is, when I dropped my goo, which was early on, it was probably by mile 2, I didn't replenish it. So I didn't take one from the aid station because they had stuff they were offering. I wish I would have done that. I don't know that it would have affected me too much, but I think it would have helped a little bit. But, I guess that's when I really hit my wall, and I couldn't get my legs to turn over. I was hurting. I was really hurting. The glute and hamstring area that I was telling you about, that was intensified by a lot. And so I was just kind of at that point starting to count the miles down. I'm like, okay, just got a few more left. Okay, you can do this. And of course, that's probably when I hit another hill, because there were 2 big hills in the one loop. And when I say big, I mean like really long. It's like, okay, you think you're almost there, and then you're not there. And then it just keeps going. And, so I slowed down on the hills, and I tried to pick up pace back when we hit a flat, and then we'd hit another uphill, and I'd slow down again and try to pick it back up on the flat. But, yeah, that's definitely when I hit my wall, I guess.
Okay. Now then mile 6 was 743, then 756, and then mile 8 was 818, your slowest mile of the day, I believe. And you had a hill on this mile. Did you stop and walk at this point? What was this like?
No, I never stopped, never walked. I would slow down at every aid station, because I would I was always grabbing water, but,
grabbing water, literally.
Grabbing water. Yeah. I forget what they're called, satchels, or those bags, plastic bags of water, which were amazing. But, they were also handing out ice cold sponges. So I made sure to grab those every time as well, and, put them down my back, on my head, on my chest. It was quite lovely. But, yeah, I was every aid station grabbing water. I grabbed Coke once or twice. I can't remember. And then, maybe the electrolyte mix one time, and a half a banana one time. It was more like a fourth, but, yeah. So at that point in time, I was probably just one of those that maybe I was turning at the very top of the hill where it was at its, at its greatest incline, and kind of trying to come back around. I have no idea, but I will say I never did stop.
Well, good. Now, as far as the run goes, did you see anything funny on the run course?
No, not really. I mean, it was pretty much kind of the norm, just a lot of extra spectators, a lot of flags, all countries, being represented. So that was cool. You hear some different languages, but yeah, it was neat.
Nice. So as far as the run course goes, paint the picture of what it was like actually running there.
So we were still along the coast, and this time for the bulk of it, until we turned around, that was like, we went away from the coast, and went uphill, but, there were people lined up for miles and miles. Literally probably the only place there wasn't just a line of people, was when we headed away from the coast and went uphill and back down. And that was probably just another mile on its own. And so for the majority of the run, you have all these people out there, young kids trying to high five all the athletes. And so if I was ever close, I'd stick out my hand and give them a high five, and like knowing that just kind of made their day, like they're in awe with all these people running by, and they're thinking, okay, wow, these people are so cool. They're racing. And so anytime I had an opportunity to give somebody a high five, I did. And it was just really special because these people don't know you and they're cheering for you. Some people would actually go as far as to see your name on your bib and go girl, go Nolly, you know. And one of the coolest things, I saw Adam Hall, and I've never met him before, ever, right? But we're on the same team, Big Sexy Racing, BSR, and I knew he was going to be there. And we had meant to, you know, meet up and, you know, have dinner, and it just never worked out. And anyway, so I hear, go Nolly, and this guy has like high energy, he's pumped up, and he's saying like, keep that smile, and he's saying all these things. And I've never met Adam before, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely Adam. And he gives me like the best high five ever, and it just pumps me up, and I'm just like, this is epic, like this is awesome. And I think his wife was there on the other side videoing me, because she was cheering too, and I saw her on the way back as well. And I think on the way back, he probably saw my face. I wasn't smiling as much anymore because I was really tired. It was probably after that 5-mile marker. And anyways, but he was still cheering, and so it was really cool to just run into people like that. Some people that kind of know you, just know your name, never met you before, but they're cheering for you. And yeah, so the whole course was just beautiful with people, you know, and you're just out there suffering with the other athletes, all with the same goal to finish.
Wow. Now, to kind of go way forward a little bit, did you go the next day for the men's race?
I didn't. And the only reason I didn't is because we had a plane to catch. We had to go to Cape Town. And that's one thing. I wish I could have been that person for Adam as well. The person that he was for me that day. I wish I could have been there for him, you know.
Okay.
And for the rest, I mean, just for everybody in general, it would have been a neat experience.
Wow. Now, you get done with miles 8, 9, and 10. These are going pretty good, but not 7:30 like you want. How was your headspace with this? I mean, did you have any negative thoughts come into your mind?
Yeah, you know, it's like, come on, like, let's go. We're almost there. Like, just push through it. And so your body is like rejecting what your mind is trying to tell it to do. And so, you know, at some point it's like, okay, just do your best. It's okay if it's not 7:30 today. Just do your best. And so, there were doubts that I wasn't going to be able to hit my times that I wanted to, but at the same time, oddly enough, I was like okay with it, knowing that I was pushing. And so, yeah, so it always kind of went back that day. It always went back to like the gratitude of like, well, you're here though. So just do what you can do right now. And, there were a couple women that passed me. And so when that happened, I tried to like stay with them, and just like try to make up. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, they're probably going 7:30 pace. Stay with them, you know? But yeah, so the doubts that creeped in were the doubts that, well, you're not going to make 7:30 today. But it was okay, because I was trying.
Right. Now, as soon as you hit mile 12, you're entering literally the last mile of the race. How is this feeling for you?
I'm getting more and more excited, emotional too, because at this point you're so close to finishing, and it's like you've been waiting for this moment for a long time. And, oh God, I feel like I'm going to get emotional just thinking about this. And so like you've been waiting for this moment, and you start thinking about all the things that have gone into it, all the blood, sweat, and tears is what, you know, what they say, and just, the effort and the sacrifices and all these things. And it's like right around the corner, and you just have to make it just a little bit longer, before you cross that line. And I'm sorry. Anyway, so it's just a really joyful feeling, of accomplishing something that you had your heart and mind set to, you know?
Wow. So you take that turn to go towards the finish line versus going out on your second loop, and you can see everything start coming together. How is this for you?
Magical. And as soon as you see that red carpet, it's like, I'm here. And then the coolest thing is like hearing a loved one, you know, saying, good job, you got this. And Forrest had, again, placed himself so perfectly before the red carpet, and then he somehow sprinted to the red carpet. And he had the American flag with him. And he was like, do you want it? Do you want it? Because I had told him, if he's close, I'll grab it and I'll run with it in. And at that moment, I just wanted to keep running and finish. And so I look at him and I'm like, nope. And I keep running. And then I see the red carpet, and I'm, I guess they were the commentators. Yeah, they were the commentators standing, a few yards before the actual finish line, and they're commentating and, saying, who's coming through the line, and they're giving people high fives. And so I give one a high five, and then I give the other a high five, and then I see the arc, and I just raise my hands up to the sky with joy, and I'm pretty sure, I hope this is on video, but I'm pretty sure I do like this weird, like, excited jump kind of like dance thing with my hands up to the sky, because I don't know, sometimes I spaz out and I have some quirky moments, but I'm pretty sure I did something like that, because one of the pictures that were captured by the photographers, my feet were not on the ground, and I don't remember jumping, but apparently it happened. And so it was just a really neat experience. And as soon as I crossed that line, like, the waterworks started happening, and I just start tearing up because I did it. I finished. And it was just such a neat feeling and sense of accomplishment. And then walked over to Forrest, and he tells me, great job, and get the hug and the kiss. And yeah, and then I go get this big medal that weighs a ton. But yeah, it was the best feeling ever.
Wow. So what about this race meant so much to you?
I think it was just the fact that, oh boy. Okay. So when I started my triathlon career 2.5 years ago, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be in the position I was then. And I say that as in the world championship. It meant so much because I proved to myself I can do more than what even I think I can do. And the fact that you work so hard for something for so long, and you're able to attain something. And so for me, just being able to cross that line, prove to myself that I can operate at a higher level than I ever thought possible. And honestly, that was initially proven to me in Chattanooga when I found myself on the podium, not even trying to do that, not even trying to break 5 hours, and to prove to myself that I can do that, and I can be fast. I am fast. And it's really neat to surprise yourself of what you're capable of, and just almost realizing that sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit, and that we can not only do what we say we're going to do, but more than what we think we can do, So there's a lot.
Wow. So what emotions were you feeling afterwards?
So many. It's one of those things that I'm not even sure if there's a word for it, or maybe there is and I just don't know it, but it's just all the good, I'm going to call them vibes, all the good vibes, all the good things that you can think of were in that emotional mix. Those came through, tears, because it's just, you're overwhelmed. Like, your heart is so full. You don't even know how to express that joy, but through tears. And you think of tears, oh, you're sad. But no, they were like the happiest of tears. And so it's just this overwhelming sensation of excitement, of joy, of accomplishment, of pride, of confidence. Like, you name it. And it's just all those good things. Like, that's what I was feeling in that moment and thereafter. And just proud of myself, because that's one thing that my family especially, but everybody, all my friends from Ruston and my cycling buddies and my family, and they're just just over and over again, we're so proud of you. You represent Ruston so well, and just all these beautiful words, you can hear of. And so at that moment, I became proud of myself too,
Good. So after you finished, you got the hug and kiss from Forrest, and then you got your medal. What'd you get to do next?
I went and got a massage. It was great. It was this cute little bitty girl. And the funniest thing, so as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh yeah, short and feisty. She's going to be so strong. And she was like, she gave me the best massage I've ever had after a race. It said 5 minutes on the little poster going in. It says 5-minute free massage. It ended up being at least 20. I'm not kidding. And she was like, okay, what else do you need? Do you, your back, your triceps, and so she went beyond what she was there for and just gave me the best post massage ever. I think that definitely helped with my soreness the next day.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a great massage.
So what's something that you learned from this experience that you want to pass on to someone who hasn't done this experience before?
Oh man. That's a tough one, but I would always say, like, reach for the stars. You never settle for what you think you're capable of. Aim higher, because the higher you aim, the higher you'll go. And that's something that I've learned this year. Like I kind of mentioned before, I didn't give myself enough credit, and I proved to myself that I can do more than what I even think I can. And I will say that all comes through Christ. And so being able to not do what I can, but do what I can through Him far exceeds what you think you can do. And so just being able to do this and glorify Him and get my strength from Him has taken me much further than I could ever think possible. So aim higher, and you'll go further.
Wow. Looking back on it, how well prepared for this race do you think you were?
How what?
How well prepared for this race do you think you were?
Yeah, I think because I had a fantastic coach, I was able to prepare a lot better than I could have on my own, and just in a million ways. And so because I had a coach, like, that's what enabled me to increase my ability to become a better swimmer, a stronger cyclist, my mentality, like being able to prove to myself that I can even become a stronger runner. And so, having a coach helped me be well prepared for this race. If I hadn't had a coach, I definitely wouldn't have been as prepared. Not even close.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So what was the mindset of Forrest whenever you had mentioned getting a coach or talked about getting a coach? What was the conversation with him?
Yeah. So, he's kind of given me a lot of flexibility. He's, we'll discuss things, but I have let's just say, like, he believes me when I tell him, like, this will truly help me do X, Y, and Z, or I really think, but that by having a coach, it'll take me further. And he has no doubts about that either. But then he comes into like, well, okay, what does this mean, financially and stuff like that. So it's just one of those conversations you have to have. But luckily, he supports me and he's on my side when I request things. For example, South Africa, that in itself is not a cheap endeavor, right? Really, triathlon as a whole is not cheap because you have all these races and the races add up and the equipment adds up, yada, yada, yada. And so, luckily, if he sees that I want something badly enough, he is open to allowing me to have it, I guess, if that makes sense, as long as it fits in the budget. Right.
So, if you could change anything about your race experience in South Africa, what would you change about it?
Okay. So I definitely would have tried to do a practice swim. That was probably the only thing I felt like I was really kind of going in there blinded in a sense. So it didn't work out though because of the delay of flight, and I got there later than I needed to, but I could have managed to squeeze it in somewhere else. It just wouldn't have been an organized swim practice because they had lifeguards on duty for about an hour and a half on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, I got in too late. I missed that completely. Well, Friday is when I assembled my bike. And so if I could have done things again, I would have made time to assemble my bike Thursday day and then swim Friday morning, either before or after my other pre-race stuff. So that's one thing. That's probably the only thing, aside from getting into bed earlier the night before the race. But again, kind of unavoidable. The only other thing I think I could have done is left Forrest there to kind of handle everything, and then I Ubered by myself. But at that point, I don't think he would have let me go by myself. I think he would have just left early and just kind of forgotten about the wallet. But yeah, that's the only thing that comes to mind right now.
Okay. So if we take a look at this from a logistics standpoint, how complicated was this for you to get down to South Africa from Louisiana in the United States, to get all the way down there, race, and then come back with the mini vacation in between? What was all this like logistically for you?
Okay, I just thought of something else too. The other thing I would have done differently is gotten there earlier. That's a big one, actually. Like, lesson learned, get there as early as possible. We could have, that's the other thing. We could have taken a few extra days, because we left on like I said, a Tuesday. We could have just went ahead and not gone into work on Monday and then left Friday or something like that, But, anyway, so logistics wise, super complicated because of all the internal flights and because it wasn't going to be a round trip, because we were going to go to Cape Town after the race. And so it required a lot of separate tickets bought. Luckily Forrest did all that. So he was the stressed one, because it is kind of stressful when you're trying to time everything right and make sure you have enough time, because international flights, you have to go through all sorts of extra precautionary measures and customs, and there's extra security, and then the lines are longer because of that. And so, it's just a bigger process. Let's just say that. And then if one flight's delayed, the next one you miss it. And what if it's your 16-hour flight? When's the next one? So there's a lot of ifs, like, if this doesn't work out, what do we do? But, one thing we did learn as well, if you don't buy, when you don't buy your tickets through, let's say, just one airline company, to where they, you're on the same airline from point A to point Z. If one flight is delayed, they figure out a way to get you to your destination. Well, when you're purchasing a ticket from Delta and then you're purchasing a ticket from FlySafare, they're not connected at all. So if you miss your flight, even if it's because of Delta, you miss your flight, and now you're forced to buy a whole new ticket. Yes, that happened. We had to buy 2 whole new tickets. Yes. And so it kind of complicates things. And then you hope that doesn't happen again, because you don't want to buy 2 more tickets to something else, and they don't work with you on that. It was pretty frustrating. So us missing our being late with Delta caused us to buy 2 new tickets. No help either. Like, no discounts. Yeah.
So with this, would you definitely recommend having expendable cash on hand for things like this?
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't even know that we did. Everything was taken care of with credit card. So the cash piece doesn't really play into that factor.
Okay.
But I would say, give yourself, if you're doing that, which we were forced to because Delta doesn't go all the way to Port Elizabeth, but just give yourself more time. Like, we should have, which was the original plan, spent the night there in Johannesburg and then fly the next day. Like that be the plan. So even if you're late, it's okay because you're not flying until the next day. And because I was very pushy, I was like, no, we have to get there Wednesday. We bought the last possible flight out of Johannesburg to Port Elizabeth and we missed it. So leave earlier, give yourself more time in between flights. Just better safe than sorry.
Okay. So we covered quite a bit about this race. Did we leave anything out?
Not that I can think of. I mean, everything. No. I think you asked me great questions, and I think I said everything I needed to.
Okay. So what's next for you?
Oh, so this was the end of tri-season for me. So right now I'm going to focus on maintaining my swim and bike for next season, whenever that is. And right now I'm probably just going to focus on doing some running and most likely half marathon. I don't know if I'm going to go up to a full right now, but I'm not going to say no to that either. So I have a couple on my list. There's one in Louisiana. It's called the Louisiana Marathon. And I've never done it before. And I know it brings in a pretty big crowd. And I know it's a flat, fast course. So it'd be kind of fun to try and PR. I just don't know if I want to do a half or full. And then there's a couple others that are around the area that I live at. And so it might be fun to kind of test that out, test my legs out. It's my favorite out of the swim, bike, and run. I think the run is my favorite.
Nice. So what races are on your bucket list?
Oh, bucket list? Oh, geez. I don't even know. I definitely, okay. So after experiencing South Africa, I'm all about going abroad now. Like it's kind of like a big deal. Like I've always enjoyed traveling, like I said. So it's kind of like, well, why not just make your traveling into a race too, or a race into travel vacation? And so, I'm not even sure where I want to go next, but, abroad out of the country would be lovely.
Wow. So how can athletes follow you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Strava. So some of those social media networks, I'm there. And so, if you just look for Nali, there's not many Nalis in the world. So, if you look for Nali and Hummel, you'll find me.
Nice. So I already know what your definition of a perfect race is, being that we covered that in the Chattanooga episode. I ask you a little something different here. Actually, two questions. So the first one is, in order of importance for you, so just your answer here, what is most important for you on race day? Mental grit, nutrition, or endurance?
Those are all three important. Oh man, the word grit, I mean, mental grit. I think honestly, if you have the appropriate mental state, you can get through anything, even if you're under nutrition or underhydrated, or even if you don't even have the endurance necessary for that race. There have been people in this world that have proven that, and it all comes down to your mental grit. The first person I can think of is David Goggins, and the fact that he was, if you look him up and kind of research him, he was faced with all sorts of adversity, and he proved that you can do all sorts of things to your body, and your body can withstand all sorts of things, and specifically like ultra running and ultra marathons or ultra triathlons. I mean, it's amazing that what this guy can do. But, and he, to me, is the definition of having that mental grit. And so out of those three things, I think that trumps the others.
Okay. Now, if you could have a microphone and it was hooked up to every single endurance athlete, and you could tell every endurance athlete out there one message, what message would you want them to have from you?
I would say that you have to find your best self. It's hard to word. I'm trying to figure out the way to word this. So to every endurance athlete out there, I would say that you have to dig deep and just find your best self every day, because every day you're faced with a different day with different challenges. So in each and every moment of every day, you have to dig and find that person that you're looking for, and that person is there. It's just a matter of finding it. And so I would say, like, you just, every day does not get easier. Every workout does not get easier. Every race doesn't get easier. You get stronger. And so every day you're pursuing that best self, that best version of you, because every day you should be a better version of you than you were yesterday. So continue to pursue that in every facet of your life, in your endurance sports, with your family and your relationships, with other things that are important to you spiritually, mentally. Like, you find your best self in everything of every day.
Wow, that's great. Nali, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I've enjoyed it, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, thanks so much for having me today, Terry.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.